You know what we really need to talk about as a nation? Is how we're not ever going to convert to the metric system.
I know.
Why are we
literally having this conversation?
Why are we holding on to feet and miles?
This is ridiculous.
It's just because of being stubborn at this point.
It seriously is. Celsius makes way more sense.
Yep.
0, freezing, 100,
Yep.
burning.
Dead.
Let's do it. Makes
That's all I need to know.
Change it from American to metric.
Yeah.
That will be the thing that if they change it in our lifetime, that'll be the thing that for our generation will be the one where it's like kids walking around with their phones all like it's gonna be that where we're gonna be
Kids don't even know what an inch is.
we're gonna be making Facebook posts that are like I'm 6 feet and 1 inch tall. I'm not no meters. I'm not no centimeters.
Look at them
It's
kids.
95 degrees outside. It ain't no 52 degrees Celsius.
So true. I can see it.
How many miles away is California? I said miles.
Grandpa, you can't say miles anymore. Nobody knows what that means.
Quick, I gotta draw a gallon guy. How many quarts in a pint?
How many gallons of gas do I need? Ain't asking about no quarts of petrol. Hello and welcome to Two Chunks and a Hunk, our movie podcast where we give pumps and dumps. My name is Jordan Wonders, and I am your chunk.
I'm Doge, and my days of breaking into places and stealing chunks are over. What do you want me to do?
My name is David Blease, and I need you to break into a place and steal some hunks.
Ooh, nice.
Back and forth, will they?
Did you guys plan that?
Oh my goodness.
Did you guys plan that?
I've been writing it for 2 seasons, and 3rd season it's gonna get real wild.
That
Did
is
you guys-
the reason we started this podcast, so we could make that joke.
So did you guys plan that? And you didn't ask me if I wanted to.
We have a separate group text.
Oh,
It's called one chunk and one hunk.
me.
And I guess it wouldn't be a group text at that point because all
It
texts
would
have
be a
two
text.
people.
It would be an
It's a group that's just you and me.
Yeah, I'm pretty constantly texting with other people about this.
Always
place,
have
just-
that little red number on top of that speech bubble.
Yeah,
so many
dude,
messages.
guys, like you don't even know about all the stuff I'm planning without you two.
You can't bring your phone to this podcast, or else it'll be like vibrating.
Oh, it's just
all
like
the
stop
time.
it, stop it. Oh, leave me alone. Well, we have a lot to get to today, as
Yeah.
always. So let's go ahead and introduce the fact that we are talking about Ant-Man. Doge, synopsis me down.
Gosh. Say it again. I was not ready for that. Nope. If you're going to say that in this episode.
You get one.
So, Ant-Man tells the story of a unhappy single guy who happens upon a suit with fantastic abilities. Initially reluctant to accept the power of the suit, he later realizes he must use the suit to save the day and win back the respect of his child, who lives with the child's mother and this kind of dweeby guy that she's seeing right now. And in so doing, he wins back a place in their family.
Did you think to yourself the vibe that you got?
If you're
I was
thinking
about
to
to
yourself,
say-
he just described Ant-Man, you're wrong. I was talking about the Santa Claus.
Dude, I'm not kidding. When I saw Hope, I was like, she looks like the mom from Santa Claus.
And the fact that his name is Scott,
I know.
I kept getting like hardcore Santa Claus
Because
vibes.
her
blowing my
haircut,
brain.
well, because like Evangeline Lilly doesn't look just like the mom from Santa Claus.
looks
but
enough like Laura.
with that lob cut. 100%. There was one time where she said like, "Scott, you're something," and I was like, "Whoa, this is the Santa Claus."
Santa Claus.
Dude, I don't know if you just know what you did, but you just blew my brain. That was fantastic.
So
I was
the
like,
cop is Neil.
I was like,
Yeah.
man, he's getting really like generic with this synopsis, and then he just sucker punched me.
Listen, if there's one thing you need to learn from this podcast,
Yeah.
there's only one story, and it is this. Man finds magic suit.
Mm-hmm.
Man uses magic suit to win back his place in his broken but now whole again family. Every
The only
story, every
It's
story is
Taylor's
just that.
oldest time. So Paxton is the dad, right? That was his name, Paxton.
Paxton is the cop, yeah.
Did you get dweeby from him?
Yeah, I didn't get dweeby either.
I definitely didn't get cool.
He's a loser in the same way that Neil is a loser, in so absorbed in his work.
Very successful, but kind of dorky. Is that
successful and so absorbed in his work that that's his whole identity.
I just think, I think I got a parallel in the sense of he's the dad that you would say the average person would say, no, I know what's best for this daughter.
yeah.
And that's keeping her from you, or keeping him from you.
Yeah.
Dude, honestly, I'm so glad you brought that up because I had forgotten those parallels But yesterday watching, I was literally like, this is the Santa Claus.
The actual plot of the Santa Claus is
No, that's actually pretty much it, though.
pretty much that. They
Sandman.
So Scott Lang is a criminal who is
Scott Calvin.
Scott Calvin, SC, as it says on his pajamas.
All right,
is
I'm sorry. I'm going to kill it.
Scott Lang is a criminal who's recruited by aging scientist Hank Pym to steal his groundbreaking shrink and size-changing technology.
So is Hank Bernard?
Hank is a combination of Bernard and the old Santa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm telling you guys, this movie is just the Santa Claus. And that makes
So
Hope.
is Hope Charlie?
Hope is either Charlie or Judy the hot cocoa elf, and I can't tell.
Yeah, she's Judy because Charlie is his daughter.
Yeah, you're right.
Is Cassie. But anyway, so Scott Lang is recruited to steal this size-changing technology from...
We're not moving here.
Welcome to our Ant-Man podcast episode where all we're going to do is compare this to the Santa Claus.
So Yellow Jacket's just like, I'm going to call you Little Nush.
He's got a plastic tushy.
Oh my goodness.
So...
Actually, he's more like Jack Frost because he wants to take his place.
He is.
I was never Ant-Man at all.
I'm telling you guys, this is just if all of the Santa Claus movies were condensed into one super movie.
Oh my goodness, this is so wonderful.
So Scott is recruited by Hank Pym to steal this size-changing technology from kind of out-of-control inventor, his former protege, Darren Cross. Darren plans to weaponize this technology and create an army of Yellow Jackets, which is his name for the size-changing super soldier that's going to revolutionize warfare.
Yeah.
It's a heist movie, which is awesome. And so the whole thing is a series of heists and just crazy hijinks
To steal the Yellow Jacket.
the Yellow Jacket suit.
and destroy the research.
Exactly. Yep.
So let's get after
There
it.
you go.
And to wish the whole world a very Merry Christmas.
I mean, the movie opens up in 1985. And
1989, actually.
89.
Yeah, it was a Taylor
Okay.
Swift reference.
This
It
was
went
fun,
right
guys.
over
Thanks
a
so
lot of
much.
people's heads.
A what reference?
A Taylor Swift reference. She's actually credited as a writer on
See,
this
David
movie.
thought it was a Bowling for Soup reference.
Oh, gotcha.
But that CGI for young Michael Douglas
Oh my gosh,
was so
dude.
freaking good.
Let me
trips me
I'm
out.
gonna pump right now on all of the aging effects.
Yeah.
Like older, but not like Alzheimer's Peggy Carter.
Yeah. Yeah,
Looks
dude.
great. Looks
she
so
was
believable.
she was okay for me. She was good.
Okay.
No, I think she looked
she looked
amazing.
okay.
So pretend David didn't say that.
Yeah.
Older Peggy Carter looked great.
Young Michael Douglas.
Young Michael Douglas looks incredible.
Young, what's his
Shield
name?
representative.
Yeah.
Or Hydra
The
now
guy who works for Hydra.
Yeah.
Well, assume
Yeah, he was great
presumably
too.
worked for Hydra at the time
Yeah,
as well.
fair.
I
Looked
honestly
amazing.
forgot about that they did that to him too. He
Yeah.
looked maybe even better than Doug, but I guess we don't really know him as well.
Yeah.
Like we know what young Michael Douglas looks like.
Yeah.
But man, he was
feel
incredible.
like that's
Apparently, in
gotta
an
be-
interview, Michael Douglas was like, "Hey, if technology's that good, let's just go do prequels to all my old movies."
Dude, that's the same thing happened when that technology first came out in with Beowulf.
Yeah.
When they basically CGI'd the guy's face onto a younger body.
Wasn't Beowulf all CGI?
yeah, I'm pretty sure Beowulf
like
was
Polar
like,
Express style.
yeah,
But they were actually acting like with their faces.
like mocap kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Okay.
And he was like, yo, if this technology exists, like I'm never working out again. Like, we're just gonna do it this way. So I'm sure he thought
Let's
that.
get some of those VFX artists on this show, particularly for like this side of the table.
Just like, I'm ripped, bro.
Which is it's a shirtless podcast from now on.
It's a
But
podcast.
I love Hank Pym.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Hank Pym is awesome.
He's so great.
And let's talk about the overarching like plot of this movie we haven't
Okay.
seen before. This is a like a protege movie. It reminded me a lot of Zorro. If you've seen Zorro is
another
a
example-
fantastic movie with Antonio Banderas who learned from Anthony Hopkins how to be a vigilante in Spain.
So you're saying that this movie is essentially Puss.
Fear me if you dare.
Santa Claus in boots.
That is in no mind. So I guess this is another example in a lot of ways of why I think Ant-Man spiritually is really the first movie of Phase 3 and not the last movie of Phase 2.
Yeah, for
sure.
Because this movie completely in multiple ways falls under the umbrella of Phase 3's theme, which is sins of the father or father figures.
Yeah.
Yep.
And to me, it's so clear that Ant-Man was like, it's pretty much phase 3, but we really want to start phase 3 with Civil War, so let's make it phase 2.
and I like
that's such
that.
a weird
But
decision.
Ant-Man thematically fits so much better with phase 3,
sure.
although it does have our phase 2 trend, which we'll get to.
It sure does.
But I love that we haven't seen that before. Like most origin stories are about the character finding their calling and
You're so
developing
right, dude.
themselves. And
Yes.
this one, I loved having this mentor. For those who maybe don't know, Hank Pym is Ant-Man as much as Tony Stark is Iron Man in
Right,
the
yeah.
comics. Like,
Hank Pym is the
Ant-Man.
original Ant-Man. Exactly.
So bringing Scott Lang as the Ant-Man is a very different twist. Like that's not typical Ant-Man.
Well, I'm sure there were some diehard Ant-Man fans that were like, are you kidding me?
For sure
I think they were already pissed off by Age of Ultron, though, that Hank Pym didn't
make
create
Ultron? Yeah, no, I'm with you.
because Hank
Just
Pym
all those
is
Pym heads.
Although we can talk about it a little bit later, but that Yellow Jacket suit, that face is pure Ultron.
It really is.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hank Pym in the comics is very similar to Tony Stark, I think.
Yeah.
He's kind of brash. He's cocky.
Yeah.
He's a scientist. He's kind of almost a mixture of Banner and
Yeah,
Stark.
because I was about to say he has a really, really hot temper. And he's
Well,
prone
it's
to
the
fly
Pym
off the handle.
particles. At one point he develops multiple personalities, and actually, I read this. One of the reasons they didn't use him as the main character is because for a long period in the comics, Hank Pym, because of the Pym particles frying his brain,
treats his wife like
he was
super
abusive
poorly.
to his wife,
Yeah.
and they were like, "That we can't have our main character be some. We can't root for somebody who is like."
Some little kid watches this movie like, I love Hank Pym. Let me go read some Hank Pym books.
Which
Yeah.
I get. And
Yeah.
so, but that's also why, because I didn't understand the first time I watched it, why Darren Cross was just, why everybody was like, that's not him. I was like, seems to be him, but it's the Pym particles. He didn't have the helmet protecting.
See, I understand that from a comics perspective, but I
Right.
think it makes the movie weaker.
I agree.
Wait, what?
We'll
Talk
get.
about that. What?
Okay, yeah, let's just go at it right now for this part. So
So are you saying Cross was crazy because
Cross was
literally-
kind of already a jerk. He was already selfish, but
Like-
Hope says like this isn't him. He wouldn't shoot people. He wouldn't go this crazy. And the reason why is because that's why Pym was so intense about Scott Lang saying like you always have to wear the helmet because the helmet protects your brain from being
Man, I did
fried
not
by the
get
Pym
that.
particles. I didn't get it the first time I watched.
They talk
Yeah.
about specifically the Pym particles mess with your brain chemistry and cause you to be more like aggressive and stuff like that, which
I
is
love that.
yeah.
I like it as a story concept, and it works in the comics, and it makes sense in this movie if you have
It
that.
wasn't strong enough in this movie.
Exactly.
See, that's the problem because I love it as an idea of saying that's the difference between Scott and Darren is that Scott went about it the right way
you could
and
even,
Darren
you
didn't.
could even bring it into, and that's why Hank Pym carries so much guilt. He lost his wife. He was abusive to his wife because maybe he got a little bit of
Yeah.
that as well. But I didn't
they
get that
kind
at
of
all.
hint towards that a little bit because that's why when Scott says, "Why don't you just put on the suit?" He says, "You don't think I want to? I can't do it," and it's because of how far he's gone with his head getting messed up with the particles. But the reason it doesn't work is because it was so underplayed. Like,
Yeah,
I feel like that should have been a really big story beat, and
Yeah.
it kind of wasn't.
And I'm not accusing the screenwriters of anything, but that is the kind of idea that a screenwriter would very easily be able to use as a cop out of just like, I'm going to make this villain one dimensional, completely flat, like
Yeah.
only has one note personality. And that is he's the bad guy
Yeah.
because of these crazy particles.
Which
Yeah, for
actually, since we're already talking about it, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. My super dump is the lack of depth for Darren Cross as a character.
My super dump. Oh my goodness. I almost ruined our whole show.
We almost had to quit.
No. My super dump is also that exact thing.
Really?
Yeah. How
Yeah, man.
flat and one dimensional he is.
Because I love the actor, loved the.
Oh my God.
CG
What's his
for-
name?
I can't
Corey
remember.
something?
Corey Stoll.
Yeah. I love
Peter
him.
Russo.
Yeah, for real.
Yep. But he's so good. Like he's a fantastic actor. I think he's very intimidating. He's got like a very large presence on camera.
He feels to me like he's this movie's version of Obadiah Stane.
Yeah.
Like, and that's something I do want to point out is how similar this is to
Iron Man.
Iron
Yeah,
Man. Like
100%.
the B plot of this movie is
Yeah, for sure.
the A plot of Iron Man.
But Darren Cross is intimidating. He's scary. His suit is awesome. Love the yellow jacket
Yellow
suit.
Jacket's dope.
But he's a little too villain for villain's sake.
Yeah, I think that's a problem that the MCU has with villains in solo movies.
Yeah.
Like
I-
there's not many standout villains in the MCU.
I haven't seen that problem since this movie though. Because if you think about the ones since this movie, it's been Civil War and Doctor Strange and Guardians and Spider-Man.
It's
and
true, but this is a movie that's tail ending on Iron Man 3.
villains like
Thor: The Dark
Killian and
World.
Malekith and like, yeah.
So I think that's kind of something that they maybe hadn't figured out at this point.
Yeah.
But to the logic of when you're watching this movie in real time, it's kind of like that's just what these movies are.
It's just a comic book villain.
it's comic book villain.
Yeah.
But I want to pump on his portrayal of Cross because he was
he's
scary.
Yeah, man, he's great. Especially
Every time
in
he
that
walked in the room,
oh yeah,
and because there was a few times where he like almost caught Hope, and every time he walks in and looks at her, I'm like, oh shoot,
yep.
Like,
That
he
is
really
so
had a
intense.
demanding
Yeah, yeah.
presence.
Which, by the way, let's talk about
commanding presence.
Hope.
Yeah. Hope is
She
great
is
in this.
so good. What's her face? Evangeline Lilly. Dude, she's great.
She's awesome. And there's a pretty big story beat where Hank won't let her put on the suit.
Right.
Which she clearly could. And
She's
would do.
clearly the best candidate.
Yeah, she would be
Best
better than
candidate.
Scott.
But I understand he lost his wife, who went subatomic, in which is eternal shrinking forever.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't want that to happen to her.
Yeah.
Or he just doesn't want to lose her.
He can't risk
basically.
her. Yeah.
And I get that.
Yeah.
If I guess we're already here, if we're gonna jump ahead, the very end of this movie, he opens up the door and says, "This is the Wasp prototype," and she's like, "It's about time." That's my super dump
Yeah.
because
Because no way.
what did Hank learn
Yeah.
to make him completely change this ideology he's held for this entire movie, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah, yeah.
it is too risky for you to get into the suit. At the very end, he's like, "That mission went well. All right, everything I said was a lie. Here it is. I've been working on it secretly." For
Yeah,
you.
it's like it's clearly not the same Wasp suit even as
Because
the one that
the
Janet
Wasp
wore.
suit in the
Well, I guess-
flashback was the same as Ant-Man.
Well, and I guess that Wasp suit is presumably
Is
still
in the subatomic
still
realm.
on
Yeah.
Janet, like shrunk down smaller than an atom.
No, I agree. And I'm stoked that she has the suit.
Yeah,
Because
great.
Ant-Man Wasp, I'm very excited.
Yeah,
Yep.
But you're absolutely right that it's just like,
Yeah, that was
Really?
a big old turn.
Really?
And there's
Yeah, yeah.
there's nothing he learned.
it doesn't feel earned.
Yeah.
It was not earned at all.
Yeah.
And I would throw this onto the table. I would have rather had a Wasp movie before an Ant-Man movie. If I was just
like a Wasp solo, is that what you mean?
creating the concept, I think we needed a Wasp solo before Ant-Man. Even though I love Ant-Man, I love this movie. I think a Wasp movie would have made more sense first.
Can Paul Rudd still play Wasp though?
So let's
talk about-
let's jump back kind of to some of the early stuff. There's stuff early on in the movie that establishes Paul Rudd as Scott Lang that I think
Scott Calvin.
as Scott Calvin.
Yeah.
That I think is so great. For
Yeah.
instance, the very first fight scene in the jail.
Where you think he's getting beat up.
Yeah,
but in
and then I'm
reality-
just like, oh, I love you, man.
You guys have
Yeah.
the weirdest
So
goodbye
great.
rituals.
The whole van scene introducing us to Louise.
Yeah.
Michael Pena.
Can I make a small
so
point?
good. Yes.
So didn't realize this until I was watching back. He's like, "Oh man, did he give you that?" I can't remember his name, but he's
Yeah,
like,
the
"Did
cut.
Paco give you that?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm the only one that's ever knocked him out." And then he's driving the van. That comes back later when the security guard, he's like, "Oh, my boss man told me to come up here," and he's like, "I'm the boss." He goes, "Oh," and then punches him out.
One punch knockout.
One punch
Yep.
out because that's how he
Yep.
rolls.
Yep.
I never, because whenever I see a one punch knockout, I'm like,
No way.
really?
But he established.
Guys,
yeah,
establishes
that's so good.
It's so funny.
That's so good.
I think I'm changing my super pump on the fly.
No,
I had
you're
it-
not.
I had it locked
You
and
mean on
loaded.
the ant? Hit me.
I had it locked and loaded before we came in as
No, don't tell us what it was going to be.
Yeah,
you don't get that.
That's how this game works.
You don't get that.
belonging to an actor whose name I have already mentioned recently. His name rhymes with Hall Mud.
I just told you not to do it.
It's got to go to Luis. It's
Dude,
gotta
my
go to
super
Michael Pena.
pump is Luis.
No,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Dude, he's the best part of this movie.
My dump
Oh,
is
he's
that
so
in
great.
real life he's a Scientologist. So just take that with a grain of ant for what it's worth. But
A grain of sugar that spins.
a grain of sugar that
On
an
the
ant
table?
is giving
Very
to
nice.
you. Nice.
But yeah, that whole scene in the van where he talks about like, yeah, I lost the house and my mom died.
My girlfriend left me.
My dad got deported.
I got the van.
I got the van though.
So good.
He's like,
I
it's
love it,
nice,
dude.
right?
Yeah.
Crappiest van.
Dude, he's so funny. And when he talks about, for me, I think his best scene is anytime at the beginning and the end when he's going through his stories of
Like
like
explaining.
She said this to him, he said this to me.
Yeah.
He's
Yep.
like, but when he talks about I'm at this wine thing and they only got reds, you know I'm not a red guy, but they got this rosé that absolutely saved the day. And I was just like, yes, he's so good.
And at the end of every time, he's like, and they told me to tell you. And he's like, and she was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Or she was like, nah. Every time.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I just forgot to check. I'm 95% sure that the other dude that hangs with them is T.I.
Oh yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
And-
Like of graphing calculator thing. He invented those graphing
Texas
calculators,
Instruments, dude.
That's Texas Instruments himself.
For T.I. to be in this movie, the first time I saw it, I was like, oh no.
I know, but he's great. He's so
I
good.
love when he goes like, and who are you? He goes, I'm Dave. All right, cool. Like, he's covering something
the
else.
third guy, the Russian dude.
Yeah.
He's
the
love the actor
scary
so
guy.
much. He's in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Love him. His accent was awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
Yeah, he was the least funny out of the
I mean,
three.
coming off of hearing Elizabeth Olsen's weird Eastern European
you're right.
accent
And
last
her
movie,
accent was bad, too.
It sounded great. His was way better than hers.
Sure. but still wasn't great.
Come on, his was definitely better than hers.
His-
Was better, yes. Way better, I don't know.
But he was more consistent with his crappiness. Elizabeth Olsen was just like riding a wave. Like sometimes it was great, sometimes it was really
I feel like
thick.
sometimes it was crappy and sometimes it just wasn't there.
Yes,
It was like
that's fair.
it was all on the crappy spectrum.
That's fair.
yeah. But Hank sees something in Scott. Hope mentions, let me put the suit on.
Yeah.
He can't shrink live subjects yet. Let me put the suit on and seal it right now. He's like, he can't do that, but I think I found a guy.
Gosh, the effect of when he tries to shrink live stuff and it just turns into that weird like little like.
They used strawberry jam.
I was about to say it looks like strawberry jelly.
They used
Yeah.
strawberry jam.
It's so
Dude,
gross.
when Cross kills the guy in the bathroom by
Yeah.
shrinking him, I was like, that murder weapon is the scariest thing in the
yeah.
world.
Yep.
Because
There's no evidence.
nope, just cleans it up, done. Like that's scary.
Yep.
That's nuts.
But I want to talk
I can't
about
believe that's real.
Science is
I can't
bonkers.
believe we're here. Hank chooses Scott. He says after Hope says, "Put me in the suit." He says, "I may have found a guy."
Yeah.
It was almost my super dump. I can kind of get on board. I don't see how Hank Pym put all of his chips on Scott Lang. I don't think it was explained to us.
I think it was.
It's that job at Vista.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, but I don't think us as the audience saw his proficiency as a thief. It was told to us.
Right.
It was
No, I
kind
agree with that.
of shown to us when he stole the Ant-Man suit. You could tell he was like quick on his feet.
When he
and-
flips over the fence and T.I. goes, whoa.
he was like, I love watching him work. But he was a good enough thief. We knew that.
Yeah.
But he wasn't proven to be a Danny Ocean from Ocean's 11 like mastermind.
But I don't think that's what he was ever supposed to be.
I thought he should have been.
Yeah,
Because here's
I
the
hear
thing.
that.
Michael Douglas, Hank Pym, is a scientist.
Okay.
I thought he should have said, we need someone who can show us how to steal this because I don't know how to steal things.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
is
know how to
true.
break into this.
That is true. The whole
blueprint.
plan is Hank Pym's plan.
Yeah, and it's
Well-
like, so all they needed was a body.
Yeah.
And someone
Just
who's
somebody who can put
willing
the suit
to
on.
steal.
Yeah.
I think they should have gone to Scott and said,
we need a plan.
I know you're a former thief. I know you're a good person. I know you don't want to, go back to that life, but I need you to do some good.
Yeah.
Will you show us how we can steal this? And
I've actually never
he's
noticed
taking out
that.
blueprints.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I feel like they basically do that just the opposite, where they say we need somebody who's capable of doing these things.
But what was he capable of doing in the Ant-Man suit that an athlete wouldn't be capable of doing?
But this is what they bring it up, and this is why I think that they do address it. He says to Hope, "Don't you see why he's using me? I'm expendable. I have the skills, and I'm expendable.
Why Scott Lang?
Why him? Why not an athlete?
Because Scott Lang has no. Listen to me. Scott
No,
Lang
I'm
has
ready.
nothing. That's what I'm saying. Scott Lang is willing, able, and has nothing.
Nothing to lose?
No, not nothing to lose. But if he's gone, who misses him besides his daughter? Do you get what I'm saying?
I think the reason that Hank Pym chose him is because he saw somebody that had a chance to reconnect with his daughter.
Well, he says, don't you think everybody needs a chance for redemption? But I think
earn
ultimately,
the look that your daughter,
be the
that's what
person
his
that your
wife-
daughter thinks.
that's what his wife says.
Michael Douglas says the exact
Does
same
he
thing.
really?
He says, "Be the hero that she already thinks you are."
But I think that ultimately he sums it up and says, I am expendable. And I think it's the
Yeah.
idea of ex-con, we can use you for whatever.
Yeah.
And I hear you. I think that it would have been a more interesting story beat if it was blueprints and planning.
Yeah.
But to me, it doesn't diminish anything to just be like, this is a highly skilled thief.
It wasn't my super dump because I could still get on board with it.
Yeah.
But I thought that choosing someone expendable, it didn't make Scott Lang the only person that could have jumped in the Ant-Man suit.
I
I
agree
think
with
Scott
that.
Lang needs to be like, we found him, the perfect person. He's a good man, but he's a great thief.
yeah.
And he can help us steal the yellow
He
jacket.
does demonstrate agency and capability in that later on when he has to improvise and change the plan after Darren says we're like tripling security and like installing like full body scans at every door. So he does improve on the plan, but that doesn't change the fact that the base plan still belongs to him.
And one of my favorite plans, or one of my favorite scenes showing Scott Lang in like his, I guess, ingenuity is when Darren shows up in the house unexpected and you see the ants climb up and just move the things off the blueprint so they roll back up. And then it rounds the corner and you see Scott there with the thing on his ear and it's like, okay.
Every time I watch this movie, I think that Michael Douglas is wearing a hearing aid.
Oh, really?
Like, every time I see it. And then it gets to that scene where he's controlling the ants. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what that's for.
Dude, let's talk about the use of ants in this movie.
Hold on, because I want to talk about the use of ants in this movie.
Yes, let's do it.
Hey, wait, I have an idea.
Hit me.
Ants, this movie, talking to us about it.
The use.
They gross me out so much.
Yeah.
Let's continue.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought they were. I'm normally not a big ant guy. Like, if you could rank my favorite animals, ants probably wouldn't make that list.
Yeah, interesting.
I found them very unsettling.
I thought it was awesome.
Oh,
They
was
were
so
great.
cool.
The effects were awesome. They looked great. Found them deeply unsettling.
You're telling me you felt nothing at all when Antony was killed?
Okay, what I said was I was unsettled, not that I'm a cold-blooded, heartless
Okay, I was gonna
person.
say, I don't want you on this
When
podcast.
Anthony is hit by the bullet, I
it's
was
the
hit by the
worst.
bullet. We were all Anthony on this blessed day.
Yeah, and the different kinds of ants that are real. Like the ants.
Is a crazy ant real?
Yep.
Is it really?
Dude,
In this movie,
dude, the ants that float on water.
Yeah.
That's real.
That's a real
Yeah,
thing.
well, I know that.
And
Haven't you watched
the,
Planet
the
Earth?
ants that connect? Like I
Yeah.
love using actual capabilities that, here I am loving and learning, about insects.
I'm having fun and also getting smarter.
It's like Magic School Bus for adults.
Magic Ant Bus.
Magic School Ant. So when he's in the bed,
Scott Lang.
so when he's on the bed and like starts to put his foot down and there's all the bullet ants,
Yeah.
that for me is the number one part of the movie where I'm just like,
Yeah, I do. I hate that part.
so much.
What do you think about the big giant ant?
Deeply unsettled. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about small Scott, normal size ant, and the ant looks huge that I'm like, okay, that's weird. But normal size people, ant gets huge again. Like same relative size.
so
but something
Honey, I
about
Shrunk
it.
the Kids was like really traumatic for you.
It was as a kid, dude.
Yeah, of course.
Have you been to the Honey I Shrunk the Kids land at Disney World?
I've been on the ride and cried my face off when I was a child.
when the rats came?
Yes.
The mice?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
And
man.
the snake.
Is that right still there? I don't think it is.
Be.
I think it is.
Really?
Last time I was there, which was like this morning,
Tweet at us. Let us know if that's still there.
and
the big
sprays.
dog
Oh, I
noise
hate
is
it.
what scared me so bad.
hate it
as a
so
kid.
much.
See, I thought my guess is they changed it to something more current, but
They should change it to Ant-Man. Disney owns Marvel. Like this is literally a Disney movie. That should be Ant-Man land.
But yeah, no,
How do you
I
feel about the giant rat?
didn't bother me. Rats don't bother me at all.
What?
Not at all.
You meant the rat in this movie or the rats in the Honey I Shrunk the Kids land?
This movie.
This movie,
the
yeah.
giant rat.
yeah.
Rats don't bother me.
Oh yeah, I forgot he's in this. He's in this. Like I've seen his other stuff.
He's in this movie?
Oh man,
He was great in Ratatouille.
We're gonna look back and be like, remember when he was an Ant-Man and he was a nobody? And now look at him.
He's just
him. He's a
exploded.
star.
He's one of my favorite hot young actors on the scene.
Yeah, rats don't bother me, but his
do.
his T-Rex like when he turned, I was like,
Yeah.
that's but no,
Yeah,
they don't,
the
they don't
visual
bother me at
effects
all.
overall in this movie are just really well done. I think
Yeah.
the
Him in
fact
the
that
bathtub, dude.
the fact that stuff
Yeah.
can unsettle you in your monkey brain like
Yeah.
that speaks to how well these visual effects are done.
The first scene
For
where
lizard brain.
In your fish brain.
the first scene where he shrinks in the bathtub and kind of goes to the dance floor and goes in the parking lot.
Oh, yeah.
What a cool way to show not only the shrinking side of the suit, but also a ton of really funny ways to show what it's like to be small.
Yes,
in that
but
world.
let me dump on that scene.
Okay.
Not on the scene itself, but something that happens in that scene,
Yeah.
which is kind of through the whole movie. There's an inconsistency with the powers in a sense of his mass. So he falls off the tub
Yep.
and like a bullet shoots through the floor, like straight through the crack in the floor, and then falls through a ceiling, lands on a record, doesn't shatter, and it should have shattered.
You are preaching to the choir
Really?
right now.
Yeah.
I was gonna wait for the end scene to bring it up.
Okay.
There are things that when you watch the movie the first time, they're funny.
Yeah.
But they do not hold up logically to what they've presented us with.
Yeah.
When he throws the little Tommy train, you're
Yeah.
like, why would he ever do that?
And it
Because
wouldn't hurt him.
It wouldn't hurt him at all. And it wouldn't explode. You know what makes trains explode, right? Gasoline.
Well, it's the laser.
It's the
exploding.
lasers.
Okay. So if he took a plastic toy and lasered it, it would just go. Bzzz.
It's not the toy that
Melt.
explodes. It's an
the
explosion of
explosion of the
laser.
laser.
Also, interesting about those lasers, that's a sound effect from Star Wars.
The AT-ATs.
Yep. Thank you for not saying AT-ATs.
Yeah, because I'm not an idiot.
If anyone says AT-ATs, this is not the podcast for you. Delete this episode. Stop
Do
listening.
you call AT-STs ATSTs?
ATs? Do you call them swings?
I want to go back to the laser. There's no
Yeah.
way that the laser makes it explode. I'm not buying that.
If I throw enough fire at something, even if it's not flammable, it's going to be on fire.
But it explodes.
That's fine.
It
Lasers
does-
are exploding.
It doesn't.
So I don't.
But lasers aren't exploding.
Lasers aren't real. You can't prove it. You can't prove anything.
If I laser a plastic toy, it's going to melt
And explode.
Maybe catch on fire. You can
And then
even
how do
buy
you-
fire,
how
but
do you
not
know it's a laser?
explode.
How do you know it's a laser?
Because it goes pew. And that's what lasers do. I'm not a scientist, but I'm a man. Pew, pew, pew.
That's laser sound.
That's laser sounds. I know
No,
what
but-
lasers are.
And
So-
my ears exploded.
I will say, to be fair, Thomas the Trank Engine.
Thomas the Trank.
Yeah.
Thomas the Trank does hit Darren Cross and then just fall over.
I know, but also there's another scene in that. I can't even remember, but there's so many inconsistencies where little things will hurt them, little
Yeah.
things won't hurt them. If it's making a joke, it won't hurt them. If it's an actual fight scene, it will hurt them. And you're like, this doesn't
Well,
make
I
sense.
don't remember if it's something that they explain in this movie or if it's something that I've read
Or made up.
or if it's something that I just imagined. But is the suit not actively like regulating his mass in relation to his size at the same time? Because that would explain to me why he's able to, in Civil War, when he's so the whole thing is like she says, you're small, but you have the strength of a 200-pound man. You're like a bullet.
Yeah.
In Civil War, when he's giant, he doesn't have the strength of a 200-pound man because he picks up an airplane.
Yeah.
So is the suit actively regulating his size and mass? And that's why you can't just like eat one of those discs and shrink because then you'd implode or whatever. You know what I mean?
This is a new series we're doing on our podcast called Doze Rushes to Defend the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It happens every episode.
But I hear you though, because that is the point of the regulator.
Yeah.
But my point is
Isn't
only
that what
this.
the thing on his belt is?
Yes, but my point is only this and this only and this alone. You fall through ceiling, punch a hole, record better shatter.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
But there's a lot of things like that. that I
Unless
saw.
the regulator was
Okay, here it
calibrating,
is.
calibrating to his body weight.
But let me say this.
let's talk
this movie. David, zero with me. This movie does suffer from what I'm now dubbing Guardians of the Galaxy syndrome, which cursed the Marvel universe in little pockets for a little bit. Which is there are points in this movie where it's like that was funny. I wish that specific moment had been a little heavier.
Yeah.
but it was funny, you know.
Yeah,
and
for
for
sure.
me, it's the final fight.
Yeah.
For me, the
Yes.
final fight is a little too like
There's too many jokes.
ha ha ha. It's so whimsical.
Yeah. I think usually, but I mean, I could make the defense for the other way as well. Usually the joke fight is in the middle and the end one's very serious.
Yes.
And they kind of twist it. So I
they
guess
kind of flip
I'm
it.
okay
The
with
serious,
that.
Yeah,
the
Because
serious thing is the
usually
heist.
by the end of the movie, that's when I'm most out of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, okay, final fight scene. Okay, now let's get
No,
serious.
that's good.
So
And it brought you back in.
Yeah.
Well, and I do want to address, I haven't given my super pump yet, and there's a specific scene that I want to launch into my super pump with.
Yeah.
And it's the scene when Scott is talking to Hank in the control room in the house.
Okay.
And Scott says, I know what we need to do. We should call the Avengers.
Love it.
And I love that idea is brought up and is given a reason for not happening.
Yes.
And I love that the reason is consistent in universe. I love that the reason is Tony Stark is an arms dealer. He might not be anymore, but that's kind of what he represents. And I'm not just going to give this technology to an arms dealer.
To a Stark.
There we go.
Yep.
It's perfect.
Love it.
And I love that then takes away the question we ask every solo movie,
Yeah.
which is where's everyone else?
Yeah. I love that he just brought it up to be like, okay, first up, let's get the whole team of superheroes
to
come
take
help
on
us.
this. And it makes perfect sense, and I love it.
What did
But
you guys? Okay, you're not done talking.
I'm sorry. I just have one more thing because
I'm just waiting for my turn. I haven't said anything this whole episode.
you know, psychologically they say that the best listeners just wait for the other person to stop talking.
So I'm an
So you're a
incredible
great
listener. I'm
listener.
not even going to wait. I'm just going to start now. What I
So-
like about this movie,
My super pump is Paul Rudd.
Okay.
He
Yeah.
first of all that he's just even introduced into this universe because now, thankfully, that means that we can have just a little PR whenever we feel like it. Just pop him up out of nowhere. And part of the fun is any trailer you watch for anything from now on, you can be like, Ant-Man could be there. He might be in that scene. We don't know. But I think that, first of all, Paul Rudd as an actor in general, I think he's great.
Yeah.
As a comedic actor, he has some of the best timing of anybody in
100%.
movies. His comedic timing is, I would say, almost perfect.
Yeah.
But I just think that he is so unnaturally likable. Like
He really is.
I can't. If he ever played somebody I was supposed to hate, I wouldn't.
He's got the sweetest eyes in
Dude,
the whole world.
He's just so fun.
He's so funny.
I
told
love to
Jess-
watch him in everything.
I told Jess while we were watching this, I need to be honest with you. I might love Paul Rudd more than I love you. And
I get it,
she was
dude.
like, that's totally fine. I might love Paul Rudd more than I love you.
Paul Rudd is just not Paul. He is so charming.
Yeah.
and I love it. And so just his delivery, his portrayal of Scott, the fun that he brings, and the fact that he's in the MCU now.
Yeah.
Paul Rudd is an easy super pump for this
and
movie.
he's been paralleled a lot with Chris Pratt in the same kind of, we took this actor that you would never think is in a superhero movie
As a superhero,
and make him the lead. But I want to kind of separate the two because although Chris Pratt was a big actor,
Literally. He was big before Guardians.
Big boy.
but Parks and Rec, I believe he filmed Jurassic World before this. So he was before Guardians.
Really?
I think he did because I heard James Gunn went on the set of Jurassic World and said, hey, how is he? And they were like, he's fantastic.
Interesting.
Really?
Whether that's true or not, I'm pretty sure that happened.
No, Guardians
think
came out
that's
a
possible.
full year or almost 2 years before Jurassic World.
I know he was
that's what I
filming.
heard.
He was
Jurassic
filming-
World came out in 2016.
Let's Google this. Should we do it now? Or should we
Ant-Man
wait?
came out in
What do you wanna do?
2015. Jurassic World came out in
Tweet
2016.
at David if he's wrong. No, let's Google it now.
No, you're a crazy person.
What you're thinking of is that Colin Trevorrow, whatever his name is, the director of Jurassic World, asked about Chris Pratt on the set of Zero Dark 30 before casting him in Jurassic World. He showed up on that set.
Agree to disagree. That's kind of but
We edited out a 5-minute long Google break.
I say we just keep it in there. Just people listening are like,
What's happening?
This is so
It's
boring.
really quiet.
This is bad
But
podcasting.
It's immersive.
I think the big thing that separates them in my mind is Paul Rudd was such an established comedian in movies that it really bumped up the MCU of like, oh man, like
How'd they get him?
Yeah.
Not necessarily how'd they get him, but because I
Why'd
think
they
they
get him?
maybe that's a better question, but like of just like how's he gonna fit? I think is the way that
because
I was looking at it.
it's pretty equivalent to getting like Seth Rogen.
Yeah, a little bit.
And you're like,
I think Paul Rudd is so much funnier than Seth Rogen.
It's way funnier, but I mean, it's that whole.
I'm just going to Seth Rogen laugh until you guys notice me.
Judd Apatow.
Judd Apatow. It's like the Judd
That group.
Apatow comedian group. You've been doing that for like 10 minutes. Just in the background of the whole show.
We just make it into a soundboard that we play at the start of every episode.
But I think he really boosted the MCU's credibility with comedy.
Yeah.
Getting
Yeah.
Paul Rudd in there.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
So
It was great. One thing that we haven't talked about, which is something that as we're watching through this, I'm noticing Marvel doing more and more, is taking a character and like a name that we know from the comics and just doing something completely different with it. Good example is Yellow Jacket. So you mentioned earlier that the Pym particles caused Hank Pym to develop multiple
Yellow
personality.
Jacket,
Yellow Jacket is an alias of Hank Pym.
Yeah, it's actually
like,
Hank Pym as a villain.
Like there is no Darren Cross as Yellow Jacket situation.
Oh, sorry, I jumped the gun on my well. I thought you were gonna say
Typically.
there's no Darren Cross. I was like, there's a Darren Cross.
Typically, Yellow Jacket is Hank Pym, and it's just an alternate identity that he uses. How did you guys feel about them kind of just co-opting that identity for the villain of this movie?
To be real, I didn't even know. Ant-Man was not something that I kept up with enough to.
All right,
Ant-Man wasn't something that I kept up with enough to realize that Yellow Jacket was Hank Pym, and because we're not focusing on Hank Pym but Scott Lang, it doesn't affect me that much.
In this universe, they've already changed so much by having Hank Pym not like
A
have
founding member of the
relationship with Tony.
Avengers. Yeah.
That I'm cool with you. You change everything up.
Yeah. And maybe I'm crazy. To me, it feels like Guardians of the Galaxy. And I know there are hardcore Ant-Man fans. I know there are hardcore Guardians fans. But to me, pretty into comics, I still didn't know enough about these to be upset when things were changed.
To be fair, you like Archie and like Peanuts. And stuff,
I'm
though.
a huge Zitz fan.
You're a Garf head, big time.
Love me
No,
some
I agree. There
Family
are
Circus.
certain. So I mean,
I just like the funnies.
I think you guys would agree. I think DC comics are more fun than Marvel comics, but
More fun?
or better.
Disagree.
I think DC
Does
comics
disagree.
I disagree as a whole.
No, that's cool, but like, let me talk for it. I like DC comics better than Marvel comics, and there are a few Marvel comics that I've read, and given most of my comic collection is from like the 70s and 80s, so it can get real weird.
Right.
But Ant-Man's always been like, I'm not reading that one. So
No,
he's been pretty heavily passed over for me.
A lot of Marvel's best stuff, I think, this might get weird, is more recent and like in the Ultimate Universes and things like that.
I actually totally agree with that. Marvel is so event driven now that you have to buy 100 books at a time to understand what's going on in the main Avengers book, and it's just so inaccessible. I think it'd be a whole episode of things that are frustrating. But
yeah, well, let's get back to. There's a small scene I think we should at least talk about where he goes, what's Tony Stark's dad's name? Howard Stark has this old
were you about to
warehouse.
say Robert Stark?
Robert Downey Stark here.
Yes.
Robert
Howard Stark
Stark here.
has this old warehouse in upstate New York. It has a part that we need. And he's like, hey, remember when you said this thing's just a abandoned warehouse in upstate New York? It's not. It's Avengers Tower.
Oh, it's so good.
The new Avengers headquarters.
And when our boy Sam shows up, I love Falcon
Great
so
fight
much.
scene. I love how apologetic.
Sorry.
Ant-Man is. And when he's just like, hey, I'm Scott. And they're like, did he just say, hey, I'm Scott?
I love when he's like, I gotta get this thing to save the world. You know how it is. And Sam's like,
I do know how it is. It's not gonna happen.
I love how he's just not a superhero in that moment. He's just us putting on a suit and being like, hey, so sorry about this. I'm Scott.
When he shrinks down and goes inside the wings of the suit, he's like, I'm a big fan. I'm so sorry about this. He's just tearing everything out.
Yeah.
So good.
How did you guys feel about it being Sam and not like one of the other like top tier Avengers?
Oh, I was fine with it.
I thought it made sense.
It makes sense. It felt to me like
They got a low paid actor.
Exactly. Like when you're watching, like before I saw the light and was a regular watcher of the television program Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Ooh, yeah.
They got Nick Fury for one episode, and then they got like Lady Sif for their Thor episode. And it's just like, okay, I get it. Like this is what you could afford.
Yeah,
To me, it would have sold it so much more that story wise it had to be Falcon rather than they were like, let's just get whatever Avenger we can afford.
Yeah.
If something had been like on his comm, like talking to Cap and we see Cap's face, or like talking to one of our, for lack of a better term, our A-team Avengers.
The scene isn't long enough for it to really bother me because ultimately what it feels like is an airborne infiltration of airspace came in. So they sent the airborne Avenger. Does that make like, that's how it vibed to me.
Yeah, I knew that was going to be something that people pointed out, like, oh, you had to get like a B.
That's the one you could afford.
Dude,
yeah.
Maybe I'm crazy. It doesn't bother me at all.
No, it didn't bother me. I knew that was going to be a thing.
Yeah.
But I thought it made sense. I felt like Sam Wilson, he was chasing cold leads when the Avengers were out. So he's kind of the man that kind of stays behind.
Yeah.
So it made sense to me. And I think it made sense that Ant-Man fought him.
I agree, and I'm not saying it should have been another Avenger.
No, you hated
I think
it.
that
Like, be honest.
I
You
think
hated
it's
it.
Suicide Squad. We get it, Doug.
You can't rag on me for defending this cinematic universe when I'm trying to say I didn't like something. You're like, no, it was actually good. It was good though. You're wrong and dumb. I think they could have done some stuff to sell it a little bit more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
to make it seem bigger than just.
prove to me he's not the only Avenger you can afford.
It was like when Deadpool goes to the mansion, he's like, "Oh, really? Only two people in this whole big house." It's like the studio couldn't afford more of you guys.
Yeah, it's so good.
That's the vibe I got from that.
Yeah.
Loved the scene. I just wish that they could have like.
Which, speaking of scenes, I do want to say we haven't really.
There's a lot of them in this
scenes.
movie.
Well, just specifically, I feel like I want to pump on just the writing. Maybe not necessarily. I feel like the movie can be paced a little weird at sometimes, but man, like the dialogue and like the overall just like character writing, I feel like it's so good.
And I feel like it was improv.
And a big part of why it's good is the improv, but also Edgar Wright.
Yep.
Yeah.
They used the majority of his original script.
He's still credited as the screenplay writer, I believe.
And the only reason he left is because he was big on, he didn't want it to be part of the MCU. He wanted it to be a standalone Ant-Man movie. And Marvel was like, no.
Why would we pay you to do that?
I disagree with that as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with it too. Or I don't like it also as well. But yeah, they used his original script, which is why
he was the one that brought in Hank Pym, Scott Lang.
Yeah. He's
It's so great.
so he's kind of the most recent in the series of directorial departures based on studio interference.
Yeah.
Like that kind of Jon Favreau before him, and then Joss Whedon, although Joss Whedon's probably was a little bit more one direction than the other. Just people saying, I got really tired of Marvel saying, hey, we really need you to play in and set up these next couple of things in your movie.
Yeah,
So.
for sure. Well, let's get to the end. Yellow Jacket goes to Casey to draw the Ant-Man. They have the final fight scene.
Wait,
Cassie.
Cassie,
Sorry,
yeah.
Cassie.
Excuse my sneeze.
And they have the final fight scene, and he says, in order to get to inside his suit to shut him down, I have to go subatomic. I love you, Casey. Go subatomic.
Cassie.
Sorry. But is it though?
Great question.
100%. Cassie Lang is a character in the comics.
She becomes Ant-Man.
Ant-Man or whatever. I don't remember her name.
Spoiler alert.
Ant-Woman.
Ant-Girl. She also is a size-changing superhero.
Yeah. So sorry.
She's great.
Smaller lady.
Cassie. I love you, Cassie, is what he screams. And then he says, I should have and then breaks through his suit and goes subatomic. How'd you feel about Yellow Jacket basically like shifting into himself when
Loved
he just
it.
shut down his suit?
Absolutely loved
Well,
it.
he was basically, it was like a black hole, basically.
He was taking removing the ability of the suit to regulate his size and mass.
Yeah.
So the suit wouldn't just shut down like Falcons did?
It was a different suit.
I get it, but it's
Well, I think it was the
still,
components he removed. I think we can assume some level of
Science.
capable. I mean, we see him literally like tinkering with the Ant-Man suit.
It's true.
Himself, and he says they make it a point really early in the movie.
Well,
to,
he has a master's in...
he has a
yeah.
master's in electrical engineering.
Yeah.
So, like we call that out. We lampshade that.
Yeah, I got that for sure. I was just thinking it seemed like one of those movies where it ends perfectly because the ex-husband who's constantly making trouble like dies, and you're like, oh, so now it's like really easy to like happily
You
ever
watch a lot of
after.
Lifetime.
A lot of Lifetime movies. But it felt like he wasn't just going to power off his suit,
Yeah.
because my thought was if he powers off this dude's suit, he's going to go subatomic and Cross is still going to be with his daughter.
Yeah.
So the only way that he can do this is if Cross like literally dies.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if that jump was earned.
It didn't bother me. This does lead us into our final episode of Two Chunks and a Hunk presents Hands Off. It's been a great season, guys. We'll see if we get renewed. Like this has been a blast. Like having this show, Two Chunks and a Hunk
I
presents
missed
Hands
it.
Off. The first thing that shrinks away into nothing is Darren's
hand.
arm.
It goes from hand to forearm, just gone.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people we'd like to thank that have been involved in the production of this show. Two Chunks and a
Hands?
Hunk presents Hands Off. I want to thank everybody who has at least one hand.
Shout out to Inspector
Even if you
Gadget.
have no hands, I still just want to thank you.
Yeah, thanks. How are you listening to this? That's amazing.
Hands, not ears, Doge. Do you listen with your hands?
How did you click it?
Tongues.
He goes subatomic. In the subatomic realm,
Quantum.
also known as the quantum realm, right?
Quantum realm.
Quantum
realm.
realm. The quantum realm. There are 2 times where we see a shadow of Wasp,
Yeah.
which is dope.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. I really think that's reaching. I don't know if that's like a.
I think
real-
it's
I think
100%
one
Wasp.
silhouette. I think the one that's like pretty clearly a silhouette of wings is supposed to denote something like that.
Here's what I don't like about it. That does not look like the Wasp suit that we saw when she went subatomic. It had 2 wings, which is the Wasp suit that he showed her at the end.
Did the wasp suit when she went subatomic only have one?
Yeah, it had 2 wings.
have
It was like a butterfly, like where it's got
Yeah.
top wing and a bottom wing, shaped like a really weird ear.
Can you edit that out?
cut it so I sound like an idiot?
So stupid right now.
No, I agree. Like, I don't think it was like a very clearly like wasp, no, like anything like that.
Yeah.
It was just like
It was a hint.
maybe.
I mean, you'd have to pause the movie.
Sure. Here's my thing about the quantum realm.
Yeah.
Too easy to get out.
Yep. 100%.
It's only because he had something outside of his suit that he was able to bring in. Like the only reason he was able to get out was because he had that disc.
I hear you, but to me, it's one of those things where it's like, how convenient.
Yeah. I got a little bit of that in my thought was, did Hank not know that he could bring one of those blue things in there
Yeah.
and find his wife and come back out? And my thought was, that's very risky
Yeah.
to try and be like, I hope this blue thing works. So I did
I
like
get
it.
like not wanting to
Not
test
wanting
it.
to test that. He comes out of the subatomic realm and talks to Hank, and Hank is like, "You came back. That means there's a chance that my wife's still there and I can get her out."
Right.
And you can tell he's going to kind of commit his the rest of his days too.
Well, and then
she's already committed his life to doing
as Scott
that.
gets ready to leave, kind of after the carnage settles, and Scott's young child says, "But what if I miss you too much?" And he throws him his snow globe, and he says, "Just shake it whenever you need it."
right here.
And then he's like, "Can I take him up in the?" And Mom's like, "Yeah." And then they go, and she's like, "But not over in the ocean, Scott, Scott, Scott."
I do want to pump on that. The actual real final interaction from this movie, whenever
At the dinner table.
No, I guess it's not the final. Then whenever Scott and Hope are kissing outside of Hank's door.
Oh, yeah, it's so
He opens
good.
the door, he's like, how long has this been going on? And Scott's like, "Geez, I can't believe you just pulled me in and kissed me like that. Honestly, Hope, I've got to go."
Scott's got a few of those. I love when he tells Hope about,
Yep.
"I lost your mom. She went subatomic. I've been looking for the past 20
"Oh,
years."
it's
He's
so
like,
great.
"Man, I love this. Reconnection, healing.
There's a lot of
You guys are
healing going on
right
here."
now. I ruined it, didn't I?"
Go get a snack.
He literally says, "Anybody else want tea?"
Yeah, that's it.
Or when he goes through the keyhole and he's like, "Nailed it." Just runs by.
I do love the training montage where he just slams headfirst into the door.
Something we
Cracks
didn't
me
talk
up.
about that let's just touch on it. This was a heist movie and I loved the soundtrack.
Yeah, the
Oh,
soundtrack
yeah.
is awesome.
I love
And
the jazzy.
It so
the jazzy
effortlessly
soundtrack.
switches from that like Mission Impossible style, like driving stuff, to at the end a really more like traditional heroic superhero with the brass up in
Yeah.
that heroic register, the string supporting underneath. Like, sounds amazing.
And to opening up of the Marvel credits and that boom, 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 like that like Hispanic, like really like dancey vibe, just to change
Into
the
it.
mood of the movie.
Into it for sure.
So much
Yeah.
fun. But yes, that's pretty much this movie. At the very end, we see
Two post credits.
The first one is the wasp. The scene.
Wops.
The wops. Everybody wop, wop, wop.
I knew you were gonna do that.
But that is my super dump. Although I love the Wasp, I can't wait to see her. She leads the Avengers in the comics. Like, she is a legit force to be reckoned with.
But hey, let's be honest. Like, they've already set her up to not be somebody you want to mess with. Like,
Dude, I want her to take over the show.
she is dope. First of all,
She taught Scott Lang how to fight.
Evangeline Lilly is a fantastic
She's great.
actress.
Love her.
She is so good. So she can
when
carry
she's
her
not
own.
in the Hobbit movies,
Sure,
she's great.
Which, I mean, she was still good.
She was good in The Hobbit. It's just
in
her
it.
character
I just
shouldn't
didn't
have
want her
been
to be there. But she's a great actress.
there. We just go right into The Hobbit. It's a 2-hour episode. We're like, hit us with us now.
That would be a little bit of an unexpected journey.
Okay, get out of here.
shoot.
Nice,
Get out of
guys.
here.
Guys.
She's so great. I think she's also funny, but she's also like intimidating and very powerful. I think she's going to be an awesome addition
Talking
to the
about an
Avengers.
empowering character. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great.
she was great. She always wanted to do the right thing. She had a great moral compass.
Yeah.
Proved that she had capability. Taught
So
him how to
smart,
fight.
too, which
Stop.
is
You're going to
super
convince
smart.
me to move my super pump. And I've already given it, and once placed there, permanent, as it states in the
No, but-
bylaws of our show.
And she was never like deeply sexualized, even though she could have been because she's
Point.
Point. That's the only thing we could say.
Yeah, no, she's great. So I agree with you. I'm pumped to see moving forward, like the roles that she takes on.
Second post credit scene: Bucky's caught in a metal steel trap. Cap says, "What do? We can't talk to Tony because the Accords." And we're
Falco
like,
says,
shoot.
I know a guy.
I know a guy. Oh, actually, we forgot my favorite scene where Luis is bringing back up.
yeah.
I got this mad reporter. She's like super fine, like crazy super fine. And he was like, I'm looking for one of them superheroes. And she's like, well, yeah, everybody. We got someone that crawls on walls, someone that swings,
Swing.
someone that jumps.
That's all Spider-Man.
It's all Spider-Man.
Right?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense, but
It didn't. But the minute she said swings in the
whole
theater,
theater,
we
people-
were like, oh! And the deal hasn't been made with Sony yet.
well, they were working on
No,
it.
it's
were
that,
working
it
on
had like just been finalized.
Because that was them kind of calling their shot a little bit. But yeah, because I remember the theater, everybody was just like, oh my goodness.
It had just been. Do you guys remember before this movie came out, we were all theorizing that the end credit scene was going to be somebody like talking about the Sokovia Accords and like a Daily Bugle photographer there,
Yep.
like taking pictures of or something.
Yep.
Dope.
I think this was definitely the right way to go, but that would have been cool as well.
Yeah.
And then the final credit scene leads us to Civil War.
Is a scene from Civil War. Let's hold off on discussing that
Yeah, we're
because
not
that's
gonna talk about
literally
it.
just a chunk of the movie Civil
Yeah.
War, and that will be next
what?
week's episode. A hunk of the movie, a chunk, a slice.
a piece.
So let's rate it.
Yeah. Let's do that. So, oh gosh. Here at Two Chunks and a Hunk, we've come up with the scientific cinema scale TM.
I love it.
It is
Trust us.
It is a flawless rating system. It's perfect in every way, just like Mad Max. So
What a weird parallel.
have a little
I'm into it.
perfect in every way.
No, we got it. It was just weird.
No, but if I don't quote it, then like, what's it all about? It's
true.
So, here is that scale. The best thing we could ever say about a movie is own it, don't lend it, buy that poster. The next best thing we could ever say about a movie is buy it. Spend your hard-earned bucks. Next best thing we could ever say about a movie, rent it. Spend a couple of bucks, make sure you got it going down. Next best thing we could ever say about a movie, if you're already spending some bucks on a streaming service and it's on there, stream it.
Watch it.
Just watch it. Watch the movie. The next best and second worst thing we could ever say about a movie is forget it. What that means is you're honestly better off if you just act like this movie never existed. And then lastly, the worst thing we could ever say about a movie, God hath forsaken us. Doge.
I'll go first. Pretty easy buy it. This movie is fantastic. I forget how much I like this movie until I watch it.
Yeah.
Like not that I wasn't looking forward to watching it, but I was like, all right, I'm just gonna watch it for the dumb, stupid podcast. And then watch it. I was like, this is actually really good.
Yeah.
I really, really love this movie. Buy it.
Oh, a high buy it. I love this movie. I love heist movies. That's just something you need to know about me as a person.
Yep.
I love Ocean's 11, like 12, love Ocean's 13. And this is so different for the MCU.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's fast paced. This movie flew by.
Yeah.
Like for you, is that the same?
Yeah.
Well, it's
Like, I
because
was
it
like,
had
this movie's
4
already
wings
over.
like a wasp.
Oh.
It ran fast because it has 6 legs and a thorax and abdomen and mandibles.
But yeah, a easy and a high buy it.
Yeah. So this movie is, I'm struggling between rent and buy. And I think it's a high rent for me.
What's this guy doing?
What does he think?
Yeah, I
he's
think it's a
doing?
high rent
When's his
for me.
contract up?
I don't know. This is his last
This
episode.
is a movie for the MCU that I love. Again, there's so many good things. It really sets up a lot of the weirder aspects of the MCU for later and kind of introduces them to, so we're already expecting it. So when Doctor Strange hits us with some very weird things, we're not like, that came out of nowhere. You know, we're already kind of prepared
More
for
like
it.
Dr. Weird, am I right?
So it preps a lot of that stuff. It sets a lot of dominoes up and it introduces some really, really fantastic characters. But for me, this just isn't one that I return to all that often. And I really do like it, but there are just, on the sliding scale of things, I think it has to be a rent it because of some other things that have been in other places for me. So yeah, I'm easily going to say a high rent, almost a buy. So the last thing we got to do before we wrap the show up is shout out. Doge is going to handle these. Doge, take it away.
First of all, we got Reed Towns.
Thanks, Reed.
Thanks for the shout out. We got Colton Venner.
Thanks, Colton.
Thanks for the shout out. And we got Bradley Costello, who texted me from Kazakhstan.
Thanks, Bradley. Thanks, Kazakhstan.
International Brad, man. We appreciate it.
We've gone global.
We got a big fan base in Kazakhstan right now.
Welcome to
Love
Mr.
us.
Worldwide, the podcast.
Miami. Oh, gosh. So next week, I'm so excited. I can't wait.
You've been waiting for this for a while.
I've been waiting since we mentioned doing Marvel. Next week, we're talking about Civil War.
Yep.
And I can't wait. Oh my goodness.
Good. When he grabs the helicopter, I will pee.
Guaranteed.
He apparently tore a muscle. Why are we talking about this? That's next week.
That's next week.
We go right into it.
But yeah, so next week is going to be Civil War. Keep your peepers peeled for that.
keep your peepers peeped.
Oh, I snorted. I snorted for real. And I hate myself for doing it. Well, for Two Chunks and a Hunk, I'm Jordan.
I'm Doge.
I'm David.
Goodbye.
The episode
Is
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
see you later.
Well, the episode's over, but since you're still hanging out here, why don't we toss some information your way?
If you want to be the first to know when we drop new content, like us on Facebook at 2 Chunks and a Hunk. Subscribe to us on YouTube or subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
And if you want a shout out on our next podcast, then hashtag official chunky.
That's CHUNKY.
That's true. That's true. Well, we're done here, but I guess if you want to stay, I mean, we can just
keep hanging out.
What was your favorite part of that movie that we just saw? Did you like it?
I bet they did. I bet they did.